Hi, welcome to Buffzone. I'm Kyle Ringo. This is Brian Howe. The Colorado football team is coming off a pretty amazing loss at Cal last week. One of the most fun games I've had an opportunity to cover in my 11 years now on this beat, and 59-56. The CU offense is really starting to pass the ball well, ranked 18th in the country in passing, and the defense still has some issues to overcome, especially when they lose starting safety Tedrick Thompson for a half. But it was a thrilling game, and this week they have Oregon State coming to Folsom Field, another big challenge for the Buffs.
Yeah, I agree, and obviously Oregon State has not shown the offensive firepower as a Cal or Arizona State, a couple of Pac-12 teams they've already faced, but it's Pac-12, so they've all been challenges for the Buffs since they got in this conference, and which is why the Pac-12 is known as one of the better conferences in the country.
This is the first time I can remember in a Pac-12 conference game for Colorado where Colorado goes in with an offense that ranks in every major statistical category, better than their opponent.
Yeah.
It's sort of vice versa on the defensive side. Oregon State has better numbers and stuff on the defensive side, so that'll sort of be strength on strength, and whoever wins maybe that battle between the Oregon State offense and the CU defense might have the advantage in this one. But I do think it's interesting that for a change, Colorado actually goes in with what looks like the more potent offense for a change.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We haven't seen this from the Buffs, and like you mentioned, it's been fun. I mean, that second half of Hawaii aside, their offense has been a lot of fun to watch this year. And Sefo Lufau, I think if anybody's doubting whether he's the guy anymore, I don't know what they're looking at, because the kid he's developing into a pretty good quarterback. Despite he now only has a full season under his belt. He's not even 20 yet, so I like what he's doing. He may always be that gunslinger type of guy that makes those throws, make you pull your hair out if you have any. But I think he's a guy. I think he's a guy from what we've seen that can win you a lot of games and keep you in a lot of games.
I think he's developing into that guy. I mean, he needs to actually win some of those games now, but he's definitely getting there. I mean, I think maybe, I'm not sure that this will be the ultimate turning point for him or whatever, a defining moment in his career, but my gut feeling is that it will be. And what I'm talking about is at the end of that Cal game in regulation, he goes out there a little bit less than 3 minutes left in the game, and he throws an interception that sets up Cal touchdown, and Cal takes the lead. And Sefo goes back out there, marches the team down the field in the 2-minute drill, and hits Bryce Bobo for the tying touchdown with like 20 seconds left in the game.
With a great throw, by the way.
That was a huge sign, in my opinion, for this offense, for Sefo's development. And I just think that, when we look back on this season, when we look back on Sefo's career, we might look back at that and say, wow, that's where he really sort of came into his own.
Yeah, he's been playing well this, throughout this year for the most part. But you're right. I mean, that was the first moment in which he really had to, pull from deep and find something after a big mistake like that. Because, Arizona State, he made that mistake late in the game, and they pulled him.
Right.
So this was an opportunity for him to come back from it, and he responded. I think that's great for the Buffs.
Yeah, so it looks like they're going to have Tedrick Thompson, their starting safety, back, and that was obviously a big part of some of their struggles in the defensive in the second half on defense last week. I think that'll be big for the Buffs. But this is a challenging offense, even though Oregon State hasn't had as much success as some of these other Pac-12 teams. It's still led by Sean Mannion at quarterback, and that guy's probably going to be in NFL training camp next summer. So. Huge challenge for the Buffs again.
Yeah, it is. They are struggling, though, and I like the Buffs' chances in this one because their defense has played some good football at times this year, and because they are struggling, I like the Buffs' chances in this one. I think they'll play well on both sides of the ball and get a win.
Yeah, I do too. Part of that is because it's at home. The Buffs always seem to play a little bit better at home for obvious reasons. I don't think they're alone in that.
Right.
Lots of teams do that, and I just think another aspect of that is that you could just tell by talking to guys, and some guys have flat out said it this week, they're so frustrated by what happened against Arizona State, what happened against Cal, the coming so close and falling short, that I kind of sense that this team's ready to get over the top on against the Beavers.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I wrote it this week that in the past they hated losing, but when you can't do much about it when you're losing by 35 points, because they're so close, I think they're on that cusp of doing some good things and turning the corner. And I don't know if it'll be this year or not. Maybe it will, but I feel like they're learning how to, potentially win some games. I think it's going to turn the corner eventually.
Right. All right. We'll come back next week. We'll wrap up basically the first half of the season, and the Buffs will have a bye next week. But we'll come back. We'll talk about Oregon State, and we'll look forward to the second half of the year.